Hey guys, and welcome to the newest episode of the Top Drives show. This time we're covering the July Q&A, answering some of the best questions you guys have submitted to us in the comment section under the previous video. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's go.
My name is Dimitri. I'm the community manager at Top Drives.
I'm Jonathan, and I'm a design director at Hutch.
And I'm Tim, and I run analytics and marketing at Hutch.
Great, thank you guys, and welcome back, Tim, from your holiday.
Yeah.
How are you all doing today?
Great. I'm overwhelmed with catching up on emails and Slack and everything. Lots of crazy stuff going on.
All the rest, the kind of rest and the relaxation quickly disappears once you come back.
Yeah, that's right. But hopefully some of that inspiration I got out there is going to come through. With some good ideas about things, some interesting Top Drives challenge stuff going on. Looking forward to picking up those discussions. Yeah.
Well, I think it's fair to say the summer weather has well and truly arrived here in the UK as well. And good. My caterum is just back from its service, so it's ready to enjoy the summer weather.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you guys. So we have a couple of topics to discuss today. Obviously, this is July Q&A, so we have collected some of the questions you've asked us in the comments section under the previous video, and we also would like to quickly touch upon the Amazon, which will be sunsetting in the middle of this month. So without further ado, let's jump into our Q&A. As I said, we've picked 6 questions, and the first question comes from Ben RS, and the question is: could we have a friends feature which would let players add or remove fellow players and provide an indicator on the event bracket with who in the bracket is a friend?
Ah, right. That's interesting. So friends as a feature comes up from time to time, right? We've had it a few times on this show. And usually people are like, oh, I want to erase my friend or something. And we have this fairly standard thing where we're like, yeah, that would be cool. But, you wouldn't want to do it very often. It would be quite hard to make. So it's not very high up the list, and we'd want to do something that worked in a more global way for everybody. Now, this is a more specific one. I want to see my friends on the leaderboard. But I feel like they're not saying it, but I think I know what's going on here. They're thinking about collaborating with their friends at the top of the leaderboard, right? Hey, you guys. This is an interesting emergent feature in Top Drives that players can work together and not win against each other if they want to help each other out at the top of the leaderboard. And it's been a weird one for us because we're like, well, we can't really stop it. Like you can make everybody anonymous even, but you can still go, well, I'm the one with this many trophies in this hand. Yeah, you could figure it out. So we're not doing anything to stop it. On the other hand, not sure we should do anything to make it easier. So, which is what this feature would really do. I mean, I like the idea of different groups of friends like fighting each other as collectively in the leaderboards, but that seems like that doesn't tend to happen emergently, and I don't think this would make it happen easier either. So
I think it does. I mean, definitely get it. I've been playing a few games recently with clans in, and it feels like it's sort of almost kind of one of the new, lots of games have it, but kind of one of the new features within clans is that when you're choosing a clan, there's a little indicator of whether that clan contains one of your friends or not. And it's
right, nice.
So it's such a simple little thing, but it's just really nice going into a joining clan and knowing that there's at least one of your friends. So, just that idea of that sort of connection is, definitely understand, sort of the thinking behind the question. But I think, like you say, this definitely falls into a category for me for like where if we're going to do it, we need to look at the whole concept of friends really within the game and people wanting to sort of connect more within the game, and it feels like we can sort of tackle that in a much kind of richer, bigger way. It just means that obviously that's a bigger feature that's going to have sort of more justification, and it's going to come further down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still interested to hear. It's not like, no, friends, silly, we're never going to do it. It's like, it's interesting to hear, if we had friends, what would you do with it? Why would it be there? What's the benefit of it? And And also, I know we talked about like how it's relatively rare potentially to have a friend who is also playing Top Drives. Well, it's a fairly niche game. It's not like Pokemon Go where 20% of everybody you know is probably playing it. But the thing that always happens with these games is like you get add me. People just connecting through forums or whatever, and it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting, but that's doing a different thing, and it would have to work with that, whatever it was. So there's lots of questions there, but I'm interested still to hear what are the ideas about how it might work, because it's definitely something a lot of games do in interesting ways. Man, maybe there's a way Top Tries could do it.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, guys. So Ben and Russ will get the carbon fiber pack, as well as anyone else who is mentioned in this Q&A. So the next question we have from, and I apologize for my terrible pronunciation, but it's David Evely. And then the question is, do you ever plan on reworking the trophy system to make skill-based matchmaking more prominent, rather than having someone with a large garage versus a person with fewer cars?
Yeah. So this is our perennial matchmaking question, right? It's always going to come up. So I guess I could cover this off quite briefly. Fundamentally, yes, in the sense that we review the distribution of players through trophy bands on a regular basis, and we update how they're grouped in events, and we also change it from one event to the next. So, it's not like if you hit 6K trophies, well, that's it. You're in the 6K and up bracket forever now. Tough luck. It's like, oh no, sometimes it's going to be 8K. Sometimes I think we once even did 10K and up, and different numbers. So it's different each time, and that seems like the fairest way to do it. People have suggested these other methods, but they all have big problems. If you think it through, you're like, well, I should be matched to people who have the same kind of garage as me. That means the best advantage you can get in an event is by significantly improving your garage while you're in the event. So spending money is really, really, really beneficial. All these kind of feedback loops that you really have to think through on how it should work. It's a very difficult problem. And of course, fundamentally, like, I don't want to race those people. They should go somewhere else. But of course, if you move them, they're not going to be happy wherever they are. So it's always going to be a tough one to make everyone happy. And that's why it's just about this reviewing the trophy bands and changing them from time to time, with the exception that in finals events for a big top prize, we group everyone together, because again, there feels like that will be a really unfair thing there. If like finals were, I don't know, 0 to 6K and 6K and up, if you eventually reached 6K trophies and you didn't have a prize car, you're like, well, I'm never going to get one now because I'm up against all these crazy guys forever. Whereas it's this sort of fixed, like, no, you have to beat everybody this amount. And it's just always going to be like that. In the long term, it seems the fairest way to run those. So that's how it's going to work, I'm afraid. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yes, another carbon fiber pack for David. Next question is from Nicholas Hosan. How much do we need to keep of the lower rarity prize cars? And I think this question has been coming up quite a lot on the forums, especially. So such cars include Rover 220 Coupe, Pontiac Firebird, and of course the Jaguar XK140.
Yeah, that's right. It's a really tricky one. I'm just looking now, I've got 5 XK150s, 3 Smart 42s, 5 XK140s, 6 Austins, and all of the Type 2s. Still got them just hanging around. I mean, the difficult thing is, we never want to rule anything out. I'm going to say, maybe, we'll realize, there's a really good idea to do something like this. And one of the things that keeps coming out, players have been suggesting, is like, couldn't you do events that require 5 times prize cars? And as more and more people collect more and more prize cars, that becomes slightly more viable as a way to do something. Like maybe it could just be club events or a crazy one-off ladder or something. So they all might be useful for that reason. It would be nice to say, like, no, these ones, whatever, man, we don't care anymore. I think if we did that, we would make them not be prize cars anymore. We would just like take the prize car tag off and go, right, you can get it from anywhere now. And then you would know, it's like, it's fine. I can get rid of them because I can just get it again from another pack. So I wish we could give a more definitive answer, but I think until the prize card thing comes off, there's always a chance we might suddenly go, oh wait, we could do this. It would be brilliant. So you kind of have to hold on to a bunch of them for that reason. That's why I've got them all in my garage. I mean, no more than 5. More than 5, that will be crazy, right? Because how can you even 5s of those you can have in a hand? So you can get rid of excess beyond 5. I would say that is safe. There you go.
Do you have any of those prize cards, John? Prize cards?
No, definitely not as many as Tim. He's got he is definitely the king of the kind of prize card collection. So, but I think it's just like he says that they do by their nature as prize cards, they hold a sort of unique place in the game. And it's just that thing that we do. It's exactly what Tim said. We don't want to rule things out. It's nice to keep as much sort of freedom and flexibility in terms of event styles and types and themes going forward. So but I think that there are there's ways that we can sort of tackle it, and sort of demoting a car from prize car to normal car is it's probably something that's worth looking at in the future. Yeah.
Thank you both. Next question, Ben Prime. And that's quite an interesting question, actually. It's for all 3 of us. And the question is, as game devs and also players of Top Drives, are there any features that we would like to see in the game?
All right.
Let's start with
John, you go first. No, I've said loads.
There's too, to be honest, there's too many to mention. I just there's a lot. I'll try and kind of summarize my 3. I would love a way. I'm always thinking of a way to visualize your collection. We don't, in a way, your car collection is everything in Top Drives, and although we visualize it in a functional way, and it works, which is definitely sort of top priority. I've always wanted, in my head, there's something like this sort of Jay Leno's car collection, or there's something like there's a massive warehouse view, and there's sort of you can have every single one of your cards in there, and they sort of pop in terms of level of detail, kind of pops in as you scroll about and kind of zoom in and zoom out. And I think we could make them look kind of quite. I think we could probably do something where it's like a really fascinating. It's just a fun way to view your, get an overview of your collection. And also
because we just did this thing at Rebel Racing, right, where we added this photo mode. You pick 5 cars, and then here they are arranged in a pleasing manner, and you can take a screenshot of it, and it's just fun to like, oh yeah, I'll put these 5. Oh no, I'll put these ones and have that one in front. Check this. And Top Drives has got such a historied collection.
And I think, and it brings a huge added benefit of it would be a view that would be kind of easy and interesting to share. So if you were looking at somebody who's sort of top in an event or something like that, or a friend, you can go and look at that view. So that's one. The second is and to be honest, this came up a few episodes ago, but I'm intrigued by the concept of a live Top Drives mode. I just think there's something fascinating in the kind of second guessing of kind of given the players, the person who suggested it was almost like Top Drives poker, and it's like I think there is something in there where it's you're trying to guess what your opponents are going to play for any given challenge. I just think that it gets right to the heart of great game mechanics. And so I'd love to see that. And then finally, I just think there's something. To be honest, we've never been able to come up with the concept of customization or changing the appearance of a car. It's such a big part of car culture and car communities. And when you've got a 3D model of a car, it makes sense. You can change the color and you can put things on it. It's a completely different concept within Top Drives, and we don't, we've never come up with what feels like the right solution for that. But I'd be intrigued to see what that could look like. So those are my 3.
Nice. Dimitri, what about you?
I've had a couple, but the one I was actually quite curious about when I was just starting to play Top Drives is the ability to race your cars against each other, so to sort of test them. And then I was actually quite quite pumped about having a sort of offline test track that is not related to any events, that I can just literally run my cars without, getting any rewards. But at the same time, you can utilize campaign for that purpose in some ways. So a solution certainly in that, but if there was like a race sort of test track which had nice test track textures on it, like different types of maps, and I could run my own cars against each other, I think that would be quite interesting and useful.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a classic.
What about you, Tim?
So yeah, as a few, I mean, I think the first one that just springs to mind is the same as John said, that the customization. I just love the idea of, I don't know, you could buy it as a skin, like, and you go, oh yeah, I'm going to use this version, or you win it, like, oh no, I'm going to have this version of the whole El Camino. Everybody's always using it, and I'm like, I've got the cooler looking one. That is really appealing, just as part of the collection element. Just especially these cars that you see over and over and over again, and just like the idea of going like, it's that one, or I don't know, you beat this hard challenge, you get this thing. It doesn't give you any in-game advantage. It's just a way of showing off, saying, I did this thing. Look, I've got this. I don't know, it's got a gold border or something, and it's got decals on it or something, just different as a signifier. I like that in other games. I'd like it here. And in terms of the other things, there's a few, I think, other players who've been playing this long have similar things. So one is I'd like to have some gradation in the fuse cost somehow. So there's this whole thing where what used to be RQ23 epics and the old RQ27 legendaries that now rescaled up, the bottom ones, it's like, I don't really want to put this fuse food into that because it's not really as good. Definitely feels like that should be cheaper or easier to do somehow, and then that makes more of the garage viable, and the whole thing becomes more interesting. So I definitely want something along those lines. And then the other one is, like, I spend a lot of time answering questions about why did this car win in this situation? What? And there's certain things. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a bonus for traction if your engine's upgraded. If it's a rolling start, 0 to 60 doesn't really matter. Weight is important on corners. On a straight line, being heavier means you can escape the traction limit sooner. And all these little things that the game just doesn't cover, and that I end up covering it. I'm just like, and certain players, get there and they're helping out in the community, going, "Oh, it's because of this thing, guys." Engine traction bonus was being abbreviated even to ETB. It's the new MRA, although in an update, probably going to get rid of it, and it's all going to change again. But I would like the race info button. I'd like us to improve that, so that what happens right now in a lot of these cases, it doesn't know why. It's for complicated reasons, and it would be nice to say, no, this is because this thing happens. So
yeah, I think that you could accompany that with it. We do have the sort of full telemetry that comes out from the cars, and it does feel like you could do a lot more with a post race kind of debrief screen.
That's right, you could, with one exception. There's a secret stat that we're not allowed to talk about because manufacturers don't like people talking about it, but it's in there. You can probably figure out if you think about the kind of thing it might be there. We can never talk about that one. Doesn't come up very often. There you go.
Yeah, so thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much, Ben, for actually amazing question. I love it.
Great question.
Next question is from Mark Conop. So he's asking, it's a quite interesting question as well. So the question is, the Top Drives format is pretty static. It's always 5 cars versus 5 opponent cars. I appreciate that changing it isn't easy, but it would be fun if we could vary for different events in the future. For example, it could be 3 cars versus 3 cars sometimes, or multiple opponents, 5 versus 5 versus 5.
Wow.
Great question. Completely agree. Actually, I probably sort of didn't cover it in the features that I want, but it's kind of as a sort of throughout my career, sort of from a design point of view, I just love the power of variety and the power of kind of, whatever the game is, you're generally going to be doing something similar a lot of the time. And I think it's really important to be able to kind of mix that up and sort of, even if it's every now and again, just sort of sort of surprise the player in some form. And I think even games like Top Drives as it stands at the moment, I think the wealth of cars and the different kind of hand combinations kind of do some of that. But no, I sort of totally agree with the idea. Really, it's, I guess, in terms of sort of why we don't do it, or why we don't do it a lot in that sense, is definitely just that there's a it's sort of partly it's kind of boring answer. It's kind of UX or kind of user experience that gets talked about a lot. And in terms of just making sure that the game remains easy to understand and it communicates what's required, it is such a huge part of the work that goes into it. And so kind of having too many variables, it sort of multiplies that out quite quickly in terms of ensuring that actually the game still makes sense, the screen layouts make sense. That's something that we have to be a little bit conscious of. Even things like I watch there's a series of drag racing videos. I think they're up to number 9 now on YouTube, and it's about 15 cars kind of hurtling down a massive runway in the States, and it's like, I love the idea. I mean, we could almost do our own battle royale challenges with a sort of 100 cars piling down a road. But stuff like that, again, it just, from a technical point of view, and even sort of the visual building the environment point of view, it all just escalates surprisingly quickly. So yeah, I guess the short answer is, from the sort of, maybe from a design point of view, we're keen. From a practicality point of view and from a kind of actually building the game point of view, we quite quickly run into not necessarily blockers, but in terms of, again, that trying to prioritize features, it's like the stuff that's going to require a lot of work maybe sort of drops down a bit, and then some other kind of higher value features that we can get in quicker move up the priority list. So it's that's probably sort of where we end up with. But no, actually, sorry, Tim, you might have more to add.
Yeah. I was just going to say, it's funny how deep the foundations go, because I remember a few months before the game launched, it had been in development for at least a couple of years actually already, and I was like, you know what? Actually, it's very overwhelming when you start the game. You should probably just start with 3 versus 3. And we sort of get you into it like that, and then build up to 4 versus 4, and then 5 versus 5. And the coders are like, no way, man, it's 5 all the way down. You just have to rebuild the whole thing if you want a different number. It's completely impossible. And I was like, oh, okay, next time. And now years later, here we are, like, it would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's even more 5s all the way down as we've added all these other features. It's like even harder to change. So that's a shame. The 5 versus 5 versus 5 feels closer because it doesn't break that massive paradigm. But what does that do? Like, the first thing I think is like, oh, well, I'll be winning a third of the time instead of half the time on average, all things being equal. That doesn't sound great. And also, Top Drives is so deterministic. There's no driving involved, so we end up with ties. And if you have 3 players, there's going to be even more ties. So it's like, it's not obviously brilliant, but is there something there? I don't know. So if there was an idea about how to use that, what would make that really good? That would be interesting, but I can't immediately see it.
Yeah, there's definitely something in there. And again, I don't want to sort of suggest anything for the future. I guess maybe if we went back in time, or we're sort of building a future Top Drives, I think that would be one of the actually design considerations from day one, would be that we would probably build in more flexibility to then give more flexibility in the future. So yeah, definitely a good point.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about. Thank you very much, Mark, and you both for answering the final question. We have one more bonus question from Simon Coventry. It's quite a fun question, just some light-hearted humor. In my garage, I have the McLaren 12C, Porsche 911 RS, 2 Aston Martin DB7s, Aston Martin V8 Vantage N400, Lotus Evora, BMW M3, and a Lamborghini, but I still don't have a girlfriend. So which cars do I need to own to finally find love and end the crippling loneliness that suffocates me from the inside?
So I mean, this is where we, I guess, put on our kind of agony uncle hats a bit. Firstly, kind of very, very envious of the garage, because that sounds like an absolutely stunning selection of cars. At first I was reading it and it was just like, is this a Top Drives garage? But actually, that we don't have an M3 convertible, so I'm assuming it's the real world.
Actual garage?
Well, I think so.
Wait,
I'm not. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, I'm not. It's probably somebody far more qualified, and I know it's a sort of joke question. But if I was going to take it seriously for the second, my suggestion would be to go classic. Really, I think if you're going to add something to that collection, I've got, as much as I love cars, there's a whole thing about this sort of big, fast, sort of modern, possibly sort of showy car that can be sort of taken in different ways by different people. So I reckon, I would personally, I'd go classic. I would go Jaguar E-Type or Mercedes sort of 280 SL Pagoda from the 60s. I reckon something like that is just, I mean, you can't get much more kind of classy or cool than, I think, a good looking car from that era. So I'd probably add one to the collection and see how things go.
Yeah, of course, we do have the Bentley Sir Peter Blake Continental GT with a big old heart on the bonnet. That's surely got to help, isn't it? It's going to be something. Yeah. I try to think if there's anything in my Top Drives garage I could go, look, I've got one of these. Check me. That's ever going to impress anyone. Really, anyone who doesn't play Top Drives out. I don't know.
What did Tim? You picked a Fiat 500, didn't you? When we were at Joe Macari's garage.
That's right. It was a really cool customized one, right? Yeah. Where they'd put in the speedometer from a bath, so it looked as if it could go faster.
That was another one. Yeah, I reckon you could add that to the list, and that would, I don't know, might send out some good vibes.
Yeah. All right, guys. This is quite funny. And we're done with our Q&A for now. We have another one more thing to talk about right now, which is the John's bonus question from last show. So the question from John was, you're based in the UK and you're keen to take a road trip to the south of France. You're going to do it up and over the Alps. We've got a load of motorway driving, a bit of amazing twisted alpine roads, and you're taking you and 3 friends with you. So what would be your top 3 Top Drives cars to take on this journey? We have a bunch of answers. The answer first from the Kraken HW, Bentley Continental GT, and for his friends, the Jaguar Project 8 and Mercedes AMG GT. So
I mean that's a great list. I think that's got the whole, in a way, it's what those cars were designed to do, really, and pretty stylish way of doing it. I think kind of the whole sort of GT vibe, and actually mixing the kind of the comfort and then something for the Alps is that's a pretty strong lineup, really.
Yes. So next we have Thomas Studer with Cadillac 16, interesting choice, McLaren F12C, and Bentley Continental Super Sport convertible.
Yeah, again, cars that kind of mix that ability. Cadillac 16 is a very interesting choice. I'm sort of tempted to go off and Google it quickly, but I know it. I just can't remember how many seats it's got in it. I can't remember if it's a 2-seater or a 4-seater.
In Top Drives terms, it's interesting because it has standard tyres, even though it's legendary performance. So I guess this is probably what they're thinking. If it rains, but you want coolest car.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Sorry, that is so it's a big 4-seater. I think. I mean, that is a pretty cool way to cover some big distances with a group of friends. So yeah, that would be very near the top of the list if you could get one, which you might struggle to.
Yes, and when we have one more answer from Tilman Prodzna, Audi RS7 for fast and fun trip. Actually, I'm going to start with the last one. 1964 Mercedes 600 for the ultimate giggles, and the 2005 Mercedes E320 CDI for cheap but spacious road trip. So the last one's a diesel, actually. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, sensible choice in the middle there. You're going to be, which probably, it's all right. Good, sensible choice. Something like an RS7, I think, again, it would have to be near the top of anybody's list. I think, it's like four good size seats, and just absolutely sort of mighty performance. But actually, I had a quick look through the answers, sort of just before we came on, and I hadn't even thought about it. But I'm gonna, in terms of like, I know we don't really do winners, but that 600 Mercedes 600 it's got to be up there. That I think particularly, so maybe. In a way, not so much. I mean, I think it would do the journey. I would probably send it off to somebody like Brabus to do work a little bit of magic, free up the engine to its maximum potential, do something maybe a little bit more radical with the suspension for when you're crossing the Alps. But really, when you're down in the south of France, I'm not sure that like. I mean, it would be right up there in terms of coolness. Rolling around in the sunshine in your Mercedes 600 would be just an unbelievably cool way of doing it. So yeah, I think that would be. I hadn't even thought about that as an option, but I would. I'd probably pick that one out as the bonus question winner. So,
do you have a question for the next episode?
I do. I don't know whether to. I think it's probably. I was going to say sort of whether or not to make this Top Drives themed, but actually, I think it's probably is quite fun. I think we've got enough of these in the game now that it makes sense. So yeah, let's go with Top Drives cars as the answer. I've been doing some work on the next major update for Top Drives, and I need to make sure I don't give anything away. But there's just as usual, it's a lot of cool cars are coming, and actually a few more concept cars. And I sort of opening up the images the other day, and there was one I had a big poster of on my bedroom as a kid, and it was like I hadn't seen it in sort of, I'm trying to think now, so it's like 35 years or something like that. And it was just like totally took me back to like, there's something about sort of some of, because I guess concept cars, they can run a bit wild and they can capture imagination in a way that maybe they kind of, when they get, when they finally kind of hit the road, they lose something a little bit. So basically the question is, what is the one concept car that you wish had made it through and actually kind of been made into a real car? Because there's an awful lot of them just didn't quite make it. So
out of the ones that are in Top Drives now,
the ones that are in Top Drives, what's the one concept car that you wish had made it all the way through and actually been produced?
That's a great question. Thank you very much, both of you. So we have one more last thing to talk about today, and this is the Amazon sunsetting in Top Drives in the middle of this month. So. If you could, Tim, basically give us a quick overview of why is it happening, and then I suppose I'll chat about what players should do.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something that we relish doing. It's unfortunate, but you can look at it from the flip side in the form of some questions that I think we sometimes had. It's like, why don't you also put Top Drives on Steam and like maybe the Epic Store, And I've got this old, I don't know what, Neo Geo or something. I'm going to do a version of that. Like every additional platform you put Top Drives on creates additional work that we have to do to make it run properly on that platform, and work that we have to do with every update. And so it gets more and more work we have to do, which doesn't do anything in terms of features or bug fixing or quality of life. It just makes it work for those players. That's all it does, and we just have to keep doing it with every update. And it's tricky because, as well, some different platforms work in different ways. Some of them, you put out an update in a different way, and then that changes like the timing of when we can release it. All these complicated factors that you never see as a player make the back end really tricky to deal with. And what we found is just the number of players that are on Amazon doesn't justify the extra work we have to put in for every release trying to make it work and fix bugs that only happen on Amazon, all this kind of thing. It's not worth it. It would be better to put all that time into bug fixes and features and quality of life for the vast majority of players who are on the other platforms. So unfortunately, we've had to make the decision to let it go.
Yes, thank you very much. And in order to address it, there's one thing you can do. You will need to move your progress before mid-July if you want to keep it, actually, to keep both your game data and your purchases. So for that, you will need two devices. The first device is the Amazon device that you have, and the second one is either the Android or iOS device. And you will also need a Facebook account. So the first thing you'll need to do, if you haven't done that already, you will need to link your Amazon device with the Facebook account that you have. Then you will need to download top drives on the second device, which is iOS or Android. Then you will need to log into that device and into the game using the same Facebook account. And after that, you will be able to keep your account using the second device, and the first one will unfortunately sunset after a few weeks from now. So yeah.
Sounds like we should write that down as well. Let's write it down.
Yeah, so
put it in
it's
the
all
description. You just follow the instructions.
Yeah, that's a good point. It'll be in the description, but there's also a K2Play post that describes the process. And so guys, make sure you do it. Otherwise, you risk losing your progress. Well, thank you guys for joining our show today. It was quite a long one, so I really appreciate it, and hope you will have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and thank you very much for sending all your questions. Remember, everyone who got their question chosen for this show will get a carbon fiber pack very soon on their account. But for now, thank you very much for watching our July Q&A, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Top Drives Show. Bye-bye.